This is the thing that most is annoying Netanyahu, which is the idea of the borders of Israeli-Palestinian borders based on the pre-1967 lines of demarcation. I mean, how do you see it?
Listen, Israel will not be happy with any result that allows a Palestinian state to operate in its midst. There is no version of this that Bibi Netanyahu is going to think is fine. All, I think, reasonable people looking at this from the outside without the passions of the participants recognize that in the end there is going to be a Palestinian state. Its boundaries are likely to be something like the pre-1967 borders, and that has been the implicit U.S. policy through several administrations. It's widely accepted around the world, and as soon as...
But does it matter if it's widely accepted around the world if it's not accepted inside Israel?
You know what? When you have negotiations under difficult circumstances like this, neither side will ever be happy. And the response to the president's speech yesterday illustrates that yet again. Both sides all combine all kind of things to pick at it. But if you want peace there at this special moment, this year of Arab Spring, when we really may have some fresh possibilities there, you got to start with some kind of negotiation that's realistic.
So, Jim, does this whole Arab Spring and the uprising that's happening across the Arab nations, does this put pressure in any way on Netanyahu to sort of do whatever he can to get past the stalemate?
To be honest, I don't think so. It's a Palestinian-Israeli dispute. The big thought guiding American Middle Eastern policy in both parties has been that that the crisis of the Arab world, defined as slow growth, rotten regimes, corruption, everything you can think of, has its locus in the Israeli-Palestinian dispute. That is that the leaders in these countries can turn the people's attention away from their own problems in Syria or Libya or wherever onto Israel and therefore avoid reform.
Listen, it would, of course, be ridiculously simplistic to suggest that there is one single cause to the hugely complex pressures that bedevil the Middle East. I mean, the Arab-Israeli thing is part of it. The despotic governments in those nations that Jim just ticked off are clearly a part of it. But listen, in the end, Israel, which is our ally and our friend and someone that most Americans feel some kind of allegiance to, is in a very difficult position right now. They're in hostile relations, increasingly hostile relations with their neighbors. They're losing support in the United States. They've lost support pretty much in Europe and Latin America and Asia and everywhere else around the world. In the end, it can't be a good full-time future plan for Israel to just alienate everybody and say we want to be at war with all our neighbors.
First of all, I don't think anybody has any sort of unrealistic expectations to think that in an hour or 2 hours that some magical conversation is going to take place, that everybody's going to come out and sing Kumbaya. But what really has to happen today, in your opinion, in terms of discussions to move this thing somewhat forward?
I don't think. I think what the most they'll agree to is to have talks down the road somewhere. Look, I don't think the Israelis have any plan of giving in to President Obama, and I don't think President Obama really thinks he's got a serious proposal on his hands. I think
history is moving forward, right? There is a lot of stuff going on in the Middle East that really does at least have the potential of changing the landscape there, perhaps in some very positive and encouraging ways after years of kind of being stuck in the sand. But going forward, it does require Israel and the leaders of Israel, like Netanyahu, to take some chances. The easiest thing in the domestic politics back home is just to be obstinate, just to say we won't agree to anything, we will never let him in, we'll never make a deal. But that's not in the long run going to serve Israel well. In the long run, they're better getting along with their neighbors and finding some structure. If the whole world is aligned up against Israel and kind of half of the views of the United States, that's not where we want to be on that equation, is it?